Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our consultation. My name is Randall, and I will be giving you an overview of our programs at CMMU and a little bit of what the experience and life is like. And then mainly the objective is to answer any questions that you might have. And the session today is just for the Masters in Management, which is taught in English, so it's called the International Program. We also have a Thai program, and we also have two PhD programs, if you know anybody who's interested in those. So we're on Wipawadi Road. If you've not seen our building, we're not at Salaya, so be careful if you join us that you come to the right place. I'm sure you know Mahidol University. We have been open for more than 120 years. But the College of Management's only been open for about 28 years. And I've been here for about 21 years. So I probably have a few stories to tell and can answer your questions fairly well. We are always ranked highly, sometimes number one, sometimes number two. It depends on which ranking that you look at. Mahidol is very, very crazy about research and publications. But of course, they're more famous for medicine and sciences. And that's part of the reason why we're a College of Management rather than an MBA. That's one of the most common questions that I get. And there's really not a big difference between the two. If you were to ask somebody, on the street, would you prefer a Master's in Management or an MBA? Probably they'd say MBA because it's more well known. But if you change the question and you say, would you prefer to hire a generalist or a specialist? Then I think most people would say they'd rather hire a specialist, which is the objective of an MM. So a Master's in Management then has specializations, which I'll tell you about in just a few minutes. But if you look at MBAs, now they also offer specializations as well. So there's really not a big difference between the types of degrees. And this may not be a big issue for very many students, but we are one of the few who are accredited by the AACSB. And only about 5% of universities around the world have this accreditation. So it's really considered something outstanding. And it took us almost 10 years to obtain this certification. So we're very proud of getting it. What it means for you is if you happen to go to another university or you're looking for a job in another country, people will recognize this, and it really makes our name stand out as having high quality. We also have AMBA and BGA accreditation. Those are just other types of governing bodies who try to judge the quality. It's a little bit like ISO for a factory, if you're familiar with that. So they'll see that we have the good processes, we have clear objectives, we have clear measurements or assessments, and so we can continuously improve as we go. Now I'll tell you a little bit more about these in a couple of minutes, but here's an overview of what we're going to talk about. So we have our 5 different specializations, plus actually we have one more program, which is the online program, if you would like to study remotely. And then we have a couple of dual degree programs with Australia. And what you'll find that's different about life at CMMU is that we keep our class sizes small on purpose. So we try to limit the class not to be more than 30 people, and that allows it to be more interactive. The instructor gets to know the students, can answer their questions, and we typically use in-class activities. So instead of coming to a classroom and being seated in rows or like an amphitheater, you're coming to class and you're seated in groups. And so as you have your session, it depends on the class, but maybe the instructor will have some in-class activities. Maybe you'll play a simulation game. Maybe you'll break out and you'll write on the whiteboards, on the walls. But it's very, very interactive. And sometimes if you walk into a classroom, it won't be clear, who's the instructor and who are the students, because the instructor may be walking around and mingling and coaching the students as they work on their activities. But it makes it very hands-on. And I would say for a master's degree, that's really crucial. That's really key, because you don't want to sit and listen to lectures It's not about memorization. It's about actively participating, what we call problem-based learning. And problem-based learning is already, very, very famous in the medical fields, because you can't learn to become a medical doctor from reading a textbook. You have to walk through the hospital and meet the patients and do it, as a hands-on activity. And so we took the same principle and we applied it to our master's program. And I would say it makes it much, much more enjoyable. You're not going to feel sleepy. You will definitely feel like you learn a lot whenever you finish your classes. It's the sort of thing where we say, you learn it today and you can take it to work and apply it tomorrow, which is good. I think that's a very good thing. We have both students and speakers and company visits to lots and lots of different places. So you may have classmates who are medical doctors. You may have classmates who work for Lazada or TikTok. You may have classmates who work for Unilever or P&G or Central or Tops or Siam Cement, all kinds of different backgrounds. And that's true as well within the different specializations. So even if you don't have a marketing background, you might still choose to study marketing. Or people who have any kind of background, might decide, well, I'm becoming a manager and now I need to learn management skills. And so any of our programs will teach management skills. But let's say general management is sort of our version of an MBA. So if you want, general management skills, people skills, leadership skills, soft skills, then you might look into the general management program. Any program will have the same core courses, and you'll have classmates from all the different programs mixed together, which is neat. It's neat. So you typically take 3 classes per week, and maybe some are on the weekend and maybe some are on the weeknights. And during these core courses, you're going to have classmates who are from any specialization. So they might be studying marketing or corporate finance or health and wellness. And it means you have a lot more opportunities to meet different people. You don't study the whole program as one group. You come in as a batch who apply together, but then you pick and choose which courses you want to take on which days of the week. And so you've got these 7 core courses that you'll take. And then after that, you move into your specialization classes. And you can find this information in the website, or you can ask me later on. Basically, you have 3 specializations, classes, within your main field of choice. Let's say I look after marketing, so that's easy for me to talk about. But within marketing, you finish your 7 core courses, and then you take branding, strategic brand management, you take consumer behavior with me, and you take market research. So those are your 3 required courses. And then after that, it's all electives. So you have a whole kind of buffet menu of different electives that you can choose from, which could be things like retail marketing, or it could be international marketing, it could be digital marketing. But within each specialization, you're going to have different electives. And then you can take an elective from any program that you would like, if you're interested. In general, you study for 5 terms. Each term is generally about 13 weeks. And so it's about 19 months in total. So these are our specializations. And again, we also have the online program, which is not a specialization, it's its program by itself. The online program was modeled after the general management. And so it's a little bit, we'll say, more broad. You have a lot of electives that you can take. So within healthcare and wellness, we have people who are medical doctors, we have people who work in healthcare, nurses, but on the other hand, we've had nurses who study corporate finance. So, it's really kind of self-selection. Either what do you like, what do you enjoy, or what do you think that you need in your work? And I would say from my experience in the marketing program, about 50% of the students do not have backgrounds in marketing. Maybe they came from pharmacy, maybe they came from engineering, which is kind of a strange mix. But what they have is, they need to use marketing in their work. And so they need to learn about branding and about brand management. Entrepreneurship kind of has 3 different options within. So you have family business, You have franchise business or you have a real organic startup business, and you can study any of those within. Again, general management is more like an MBA, and corporate finance is more specialized on the corporation. We have a tremendous network for study abroad if you have any interest. And I would say about 90% of our students are working full-time. So study abroad generally sounds really cool, but end of the day, it might be a little bit difficult to take time off. But if you can do it, it's a fantastic experience. And we have information sessions every term. So, if you have any potential interest, you can find out more as you go. And normally you would go on exchange in either your 4th term or your 5th term. And we have a lot of options. So normally you would go for one entire term, but it's possible that you can find something which is more condensed. So maybe you can go for a 1-month program or a 2-week program or even a 1-week program. And we even have just study trips or even a class which has a trip involved. So we have a class where you go to Germany and you visit several companies and also the university, and then you come back to Thailand and you work on your project based on your company visits to Germany. For the study trips, that's optional, and we've gone to Singapore, we've gone to Taiwan, we've gone to Dubai. I think next they're going to Abu Dhabi, and maybe about 30 students would join and go on the trip together and have some company visits. There's generally a theme, but it depends. And they're all over the world, but I would say a lot of them are in Europe. We have a double degree between the GM program and Toulouse University, which is in southern France. Everything's taught in English, and you do not pay any additional tuition. You just pay your Mehido and CMMU tuition, and you study 3 terms at CMMU, and then you study 2 terms at Toulouse. And then they have students who are doing the same thing, but in reverse. So if you're studying here at CMMU, you may end up with several classmates who are from France, from Toulouse. Within 1 year, I'd say we have up to 100 exchange students, and they're mostly from Europe. So we have students who are from Germany, from France, from Belgium, from Netherlands, from all over the place. But they tend to come from really top schools. So they're good students. And it's very nice if you can become sort of a buddy and help them learn about Thailand. A lot of them are very, very interested in Thailand. And then sometimes it sparks interest in study abroad. So, you become friends with somebody from France or Germany, and then you decide to go study in their country in reverse. It's a very good deal. It's a very good deal. So again, you don't pay for anything at Toulouse. You just pay your tuition here, but you have to cover your cost of living. And it's beautiful. Also a very good hub if you would like to travel more throughout Europe. So, why would you get a double degree or 2 degrees? It looks nice on your CV, but mostly it's about the international living experience. And then you have to have a little bit of a higher GPA, maybe 3.5 for Toulouse, I think 3.2 for the University of Technology, Sydney. So at University of Technology, Sydney, this program is only with the marketing program. So Toulouse is only for the general management, the GM program. This is only for the MM marketing program. And basically you study all 5 terms at CMMU, just your normal degree. And then you go over to Sydney and you study any 4 courses. So they have a total of 12 courses and you only have to study 4. So you're basically getting 75% of your program for free. It's just waived. So they call this recognized prior learning. And they say, well, you already studied at CMMU, and CMMU and UTS are almost like sisters. They run their program the same way. They have small class sizes. They're seated in groups, very, very similar, very modern facilities. It's a really nice place. And it's right on the subway. You can go directly from the airport right to the campus. You'll walk right up to the business school directly from the train exit. So it's very, very nice. I would say it's a little bit like if you imagine Tapatan, but with no walls. So but it's like maybe more like that is in Siloam Road. So it's right in the heart of Sydney. It's walking distance from the Opera House. It's Really, really nice. I've been there several times. I'm very impressed and humbled. And I think the partnership is a fantastic deal for us. Again, you're waiving about 75% of the tuition, plus they have scholarship for our students as well. I would say about 3 to 5 students go per year, not a lot. You have to pay their tuition, so that's the downside. Again, you're saving 75%, but still, you're probably paying another 400,000 and your cost of living on top of that. So it's a good deal. It's a good deal. And wonderful city. Sydney is very nice. And then we also have a double degree with Macquarie, where you have to study 3 terms at CMMU and then 2 terms at Macquarie. And they also have scholarship. For us, you still have to pay the additional fee. So it's very similar. But for UTS, you study your whole degree here, and then you go there for 1 term, and you just take 4 courses. For the other 2 programs, you spend about 1 year here and then basically 1 year there. They're all very good universities. Then we have other things that are always happening. We have guest speakers come in, we have company visits, we have the study trips. Within class, you're going to have a lot of projects, you're going to have a lot of presentations. The blue box there was a speaker from the Thai Market Research Association who came and talked about market research. Those are pictures from student presentations. We've had workshops on creativity. We've had workshops on generative AI, on digital marketing, just, all kinds of things. Sometimes they're related to finance, sometimes management, sometimes soft skills. These are presentations from the marketing class. Very, very hands-on, fun, I would say, fun. I've taught at most universities in Thailand, so I can answer questions and tell you what some of the differences are if you have questions. But we have a very, very good culture here. The students come to class on time. As I said, most of them are working. They're very eager to learn. They're hungry to learn. They want to succeed. They want to get ahead. A lot of times they saw their colleagues finish their degree here and get promoted. We have a lot of entrepreneurs who have gone on and become very successful in their work. And sometimes they come back and they come back and give us a talk, tell us, what they've been doing. The company visits are optional and the guest speakers are optional. Generally, we provide lunch and they're usually on a Saturday in between the morning and afternoon classes. And then you come and you can listen to the speaker. Again, all different types of things. Generally, we have something going every month. And then every term, we're on a trimester. So we have 3 trimesters per year. Every term we have a party. And it's a networking party, but usually there's some sort of a theme. So during the Olympics, we had a sports theme. We had the Chinese New Year theme during Chinese New Year. Sometimes we have a costume party. I think recently we had the graduation party and it was the Great Gatsby. It was like the 1920s theme. So people wore flappy dresses and feathers in their headband. So anyways, that wraps up my presentation and we'll spend the rest of the time answering questions for anyone who has questions. You can either ask it through your microphone or you can type it into the window. Up to you. And if you're interested, we have open house 3 times per year, which gives you pretty much the same information I did, but live. So you can come and you can actually meet the program chairs and you can listen to the alumni, you can talk to the alumni, you can see the facilities. Okay, so over to you. Any questions I can answer about CMMU or about the programs? I may not know the answers if you're, something really specific about admissions, but they can probably help answer you, the admissions team. No, I'm afraid we don't have an online double degree. The online program, again, is modeled after the general management, but you can go on exchange. If you take the online program, you can join the student exchange, and that can be in person or online, if it's available. Yeesh. That's too specific for me. I don't know the answer to that. Sorry. You might write an email to the admissions and ask that question, and they can probably give you a better answer. I don't really know the answer to that either. I don't teach in the Thai program. The Thai program typically seats them in rows, and they have up to 40 students per class instead of the limitation of 30 and seated in groups. So I think that the Thai program may be a little bit more lecture oriented, whereas ours is a little bit more problem-based, hands-on. But I don't know that you can say one is more difficult or not. I think it's more a choice of which language are you comfortable with. And personally, I'm a bit biased that the world is more and more international. And I think many of the people in the Thai program can actually speak good English, but they chose to study in the Thai program. How many hours for study? Generally, you're taking 3 classes per term, per trimester. So you're taking 9 credits. It's a 3-hour class once a week. So like for myself, I teach marketing on Wednesday and I teach marketing on Sunday. I think next term we're actually going to have 3 different days for marketing. So you can pick any of those days and then study. And then maybe you have people management, another day for 3 hours. But if you're on the weekend, you might choose to take both morning and afternoon if you want to. So up to you, really. You could spend 3 hours on the weekend, you could spend 6 hours on the weekend, or you could spend all 9 hours on the weekend, which I don't really recommend because you probably have to work on group projects and they may want to get together on the weekend. And you might want to have some rest on the weekend as well. Oh, we have lots of events together, sure. We have our leadership trip together. If we have speakers come, they're welcome to join from either program. Our networking programs tend to be separate. For the double degree, it depends on which program. If you're a GM student and you want to go to Toulouse, you need to let them know, and then you'll be preparing yourself by the 3rd term that you go there for the 4th and 5th term. If it's for Macquarie, that's similar. Macquarie is for any program except for the health and wellness. And then for the UTS, you don't have to do anything. You just study your marketing program until you finish. The only thing you have to be careful of is that your electives need to all be from marketing. Basically, the whole program would be part-time because you study 3 classes per week, either weeknights or weekends. And again, 90+% of the students are working. We did have full-time a long time ago, which was like 9 to 12, 1:30 to 4:30, but there weren't very many students and they didn't have work experience, and many of the students said they prefer to study with the people who have work experience, and so end of the day, yeah. The only people that's bad news for would be the exchange students and the students from China, Myanmar, other countries, because typically they're not working. So they have more time for study. We do have an internship program. Not very many people take that option, but it's there. So this is, I kind of skipped over this. It's in the website and we talk about it every term to give students more information. But we basically have kind of a coursework option, or we have a study option, or we have the internship option. And within the research option, we have kind of a heavy and a light. We have a thesis, or we have an independent study. If you do the coursework option, you still have to do a little bit of research, but it's much smaller. And that's called thematic paper or consulting practice. We do have some scholarships. We have partial scholarships and full scholarships. I think you need to have a GPA of 3.5 or higher. You should be able to find more information on the website. You need to have a bachelor's degree before you can apply for your master's degree. And they don't really care about your GPA. We were all young once. We might not have studied hard or known what we wanted in the future, but once you join the program, you need to maintain a 3.0. Oh, are the teachers all international, foreign? No, we have Thai instructors as well, but pretty much everybody studied abroad, and almost every instructor has a PhD. They've all got working experience. Many of them used to work for consulting firms like Accenture. I myself have worked on projects with McKinsey. How can I apply? They should have this information for you. I think, if I remember correctly, the next application is in April, the end of April. It'll be on the website, or you can contact admissions. So basically, if you apply, you need to submit your English proficiency. Either it can be TOEFL, IELTS, or the Mahidol exam, and then your transcript. So you need to show proof that you have finished your bachelor's degree, and you need to show that you have an English skill. The requirement is 520, but in reality, you can join even though you have lower than 520. But according to Thai law, you cannot graduate until you have a 520, so you have to retest. That's a good question. I would say within a class of 30, you probably have around 15 to 20 Thai people. You probably have 5 to 10 exchange students, and you probably have 2 or 3 from China or Myanmar. And then the rest might be any country like Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Europe. Some students come from Europe on their own. Even in the past, we had Mexico, Italy. The online program is completely modeled off of the normal on-site program. So the teaching methods are the same. It's just using Zoom. There's still problem-based learning. There's still smaller class sizes. And they also have more electives. So we have 6-week and 12-week classes. So it depends. So you might end up taking, up to you, you could take consumer behavior as a 6-week class or as a 12-week class. Same thing for international marketing. But they're basically taught the same way and usually taught by the same instructors. The main objective for the online program was to reach people who are outside of Bangkok, but depends on your interests. Not June. The next, I'd have to check the admissions team to see when the next intake would be. But generally, our terms begin in January, in May, and in September. And so the application round would be about 2 months before each of those. Last thing, if you do apply, then all you have is an online interview. Basically, the online interview is double checking your English. Let's say you don't have a 520, you have 500, or you have 480 or something like that. So we would still want to talk to you, and if your English is okay, then you'd be accepted to join. And then you just have to get your English score up before you can graduate. So within 19 months. I would say it's not scary or difficult to join CMMU, but it is problem-based learning, and you will have to work to get through. I would say some other programs were more famous for being difficult to get in, but then once you get in, then it's pretty easy to go through. I'd say we're not quite like that. Again, 90+% of the students are working. Some have family business, some are in multinational, some are in local business. It's a big mix. The term at UTS should be between 3 months and 4 months. I believe they have moved to a trimester from a semester, but we'd have to double check, but probably around 14 weeks. The only drawback is that Sydney is an expensive city. But I mean, I've been there several times, and they have Chinatown, and they have Thai food and Chinese food, and you can find things that are not that expensive. If you're really concerned about, the price of the rental, then you take the subway. Usually, we encourage our students to go as a group, and then they can rent something together. We have a lot of programs now with medical doctors. So I find that we typically have like 2 or 3 medical doctors in each of my classes, which is kind of neat. We also have our Facebook page, and we have a LinkedIn page. If you want to join either of those, you can find news about our activities. Again, we're at 69 Wipawadi Rangsit Road. Its closest BTS would be Sanampao. Not far from Victory Monument. We have a shuttle van that runs every day between the BTS and the building. They have an app that you can download, and then you can see where the vans are. That's a good question. I think if it depends on whether you were in an English speaking country like England or something like that. I have to double check that. I'm not sure. I think if you got your bachelor's degree in Thailand, you might still need to have the language proof. Sorry, I don't know that one. Good question. Before each term begins, they have a pre-course, depending on your background. We have a pre-finance course, and then we have an English course if you got below 520 for your TOEFL. If you have a 520 or higher, then you can waive that pre-course. And if you happen to have studied finance or accounting for your bachelor's degree, you can probably waive that pre-course. We're not a very numerate degree. We're mostly, I'll call it creative logic. So management, marketing, it's more about thinking and applying your thinking. It's not about formulas or mathematics. If you do have to use something like that, we generally would use software like Excel or some software to help with statistics analysis, something like that. Maybe economics and finance would be the only 2 courses that have a little bit of mental challenge of that type. Hey, I think, I mean, if you have questions, stick around and ask. If you don't have any questions, then thank you for joining. And feel free to join us on site if you'd like to get more information or talk face to face or see the facilities. We have an open house every term. You can just watch the website. It'll be announced, or you may see advertisements.